Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Planet Tyrell for another television talk discussion. I'm joined with my good old buddy, the Catface Killer. And you know, Catface, you said you wanted to change your name to the old boy, but that's your goddamn Twitter handle. So how are you going to change that now?
So I have like 7 followers on Twitter. I can just make a new one.
You really want to do that, son? Come on. People love that old boy. You know, they actually told me the old... They actually came up with alternatives names, but I'm going to call you Catface. But I think you should keep the old boy. I think it's timely, you know? It's timely.
It's timely, like having a friend over for dinner.
Yes. Haha, I see what you did there, son. Guys, as you can see in the title, you know we're going to be talking about Hannibal. I actually teased this a couple of weeks ago when I did the discussion on the movies, because this goddamn series of Hannibal, people have told me for years this series is a masterpiece. It's amazing. It looks great. You know, it's nothing like the movies, And like The Walking Dead, I avoided this one because, you know, I wanted it to finish and I wanted to watch it all in a binge mode kind of thing. And that's what I've done now.
Man, they finished that a long time ago. What are you talking about?
They did. Well, it was prematurely cancelled, apparently. We'll get into that as well. But I thought maybe it would come back and do one last season, then I could watch it all. But then, you know, I was waiting for so many years, as you just mentioned. I thought, what the hell? Let's watch it now. So, and again, a lot of people have been asking our opinion on this show. And you told me, actually, there was a point in one of our other reviews, you were like, I want to talk about Hannibal.
Yeah, I was like, I'm watching the TV show. I like it. I want to talk about it.
Shit. And I was like, okay, you know, old boy Catface doesn't usually come and say, I want to talk about a show in particular. So, hey, I've watched the movies now. I've watched the series now. It's all fresh in my mind as a fresh fish. Well, not as a fresh fish, as a fresh human. And now we're going to talk about Hannibal, the TV series that's been directed by Brian Fuller. It started in 2013. It got somewhat prematurely cancelled in 2015. Well, prematurely. We'll debate.
I would say very prematurely. They wanted a lot more seasons.
Well, that's going to be a discussion in itself. But before we start, guys, again, I know I just said this, but if you're on YouTube, I'm going to put a link in the top right-hand corner. I spoke about the movies. I watched them all, from Hannibal Rising to the solo Hannibal movie. So chronologically, those are all the movies out to this date. Watched them all, gave my opinion, so go and watch that discussion. People were actually very receptive to that video because I said something kind of controversial. I didn't think Silence of the Lambs was the strongest offering. And now, after watching the TV series, I feel vindicated. I feel very vindicated by that because, to my surprise, they focus more in the series on the pre-Red Dragon arc with Will Graham and Hannibal Lecter as a good focus for 90% of it, I would say, and then only get into the Red Dragon part at the very end of season 3. And I thought that was a smarter decision because, to be perfectly honest with you, and again, I'll reiterate, I don't think Jodie Foster's character is as interesting as Will Graham, you know, as a protagonist or a side protagonist, whatever you want to call him. Watching Silence of the Lambs again, she's kind of the understudy. Hannibal's kind of, you know, playing with her, and she's okay. But when I watched the movie Red Dragon and I saw, the guy that actually caught Hannibal and the relationship they had and how the series went into that, I thought this was a much better focus for a TV series. And I completely agree with Brian Fuller for going that direction with this TV series. First thing I want to get off the bat.
I agree. I mean, like, if you ask me who my favorite actresses are, the first one that pops up in my head is Jodie Foster. And actually, because of Silence of the Lamb, I loved her acting in that movie. But when I look at the whole story, you know, you want to know more about Hannibal Lecter. You know, he has kind of a mysterious past and stuff, like what made him this way, blah, blah, blah. And as you actually learn more about the character, he's a very fascinating character. One of the things I did not like about the movies, because I wasn't on your recordings for the movies, I did not like the Will Graham character. I think Edward Norton's okay. Like, he's good in some movies. Like, I like American History X, for example. I think he did very well in that movie, but as well as some others. But, I mean, like, when I compare that Will Graham versus the Will Graham from the TV show, the one from the TV show is the one that reaches out to me like, this is the guy that could have caught Hannibal Lecter. In the movie, he just sort of stumbles into it, you know, and then like gets lucky in a split second. Whereas like in the TV show, it's this ongoing suspicion that's growing. He's a very empathic character. He's a very good detective. To me, like in the movie, he's just a detective, you know what I mean? But like in the TV show, he's like this very special case for solving crimes. Like, he's a very useful tool. He's a very unique sort of person. You know what I mean?
Obviously
I really like the actor's acting. I don't remember his name either, but yeah, I mean that's how I feel about the story as a whole, the movies versus the TV series. I like the TV series a lot. I mean, I'm the one that told you I want to do this recording.
Hugh Dancy is the Will Graham in the TV series. I'm on IMDb right now, full disclosure. So yeah, I don't blame you, and I completely agree with you. To be honest with you, you're just reinforcing the point I want to make, and let me just clarify what I mean. The movie Red Dragon is so bare bones, just like you said. You do not really understand anything about Will Graham. Edward Norton's a good actor, but when the movie starts, it's already so late in Hannibal and Will's relationship. He's saying that, oh, I always came to you for advice. You helped me with all these cases, and how come you never figured out who the killer was? And again, watching the movie Red Dragon, I always thought to myself, this movie starts with Will Graham knowing Hannibal Lecter all these years. It's a missed opportunity. So when I watched the movie, just like you, I felt like I don't really know this guy. I mean, and the way he catches Hannibal in the movie is so lame. He opens a book and sees like I think it's a recipe thing, and he turns around and Anthony stabs him. It's like it's a big missed opportunity, and you're like, who is this guy that caught him? And the movie, of course, it's just a movie, so they didn't flesh him out. And I just thought what I meant to say is the potential that Brian Fuller saw in that hey, instead of making a series about Silence of the Lambs and the Jodie Foster character, which I would think people would expect, he instead thought, no, this Will Graham character, the guy who caught him, I need to make a series on that relationship. I need to make a series on fleshing out these two, and that's what we got. And again, I say it's controversial because I know Silence of the Lambs in the movie series is the more adored, the more worshipped movie, and I mostly think that's because of Anthony Hopkins, not because of the story.
Well, I'll come out and say something even more controversial. Again, one of my favorite actors of all time, Sir Anthony Hopkins, sorry. I love him as an actor, everything, but when I look at this character from start to finish, from his childhood to where he is in the movies with Anthony Hopkins and whatnot, that doesn't ring to me as somebody that grew up as a foreigner. He's in a different country now.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
And all that other stuff. But then, like the actor Mads Mikkelsen in the TV show, he comes off very much like an intellectual Lithuanian. You know what I mean? Like he had roots in another country, and he came over. He's very analytical and everything. Like it's just, I understand there's constraints in movies and everything, and I really enjoyed the fact that they took advantage of spreading out how you learn about this character, how you experience this character, the way it should have been, I think, in a sort of moving picture format. I mean, I'm sure, I haven't read the book, but I'm sure in the books he's much more like Mads Mikkelsen's portrayal in the TV series than Anthony Hopkins in the movies. You know what I mean?
You know what's funny? And this is a fun fact. The Hannibal Lecter series was never meant to be about Hannibal. It was always meant to be about Will Graham. It was never meant to be about Hannibal. He was a side character. But then in Silence of the Lambs, I don't know why he decided to focus on that character because he was so well received. And then it became the Hannibal Lecter series. So it wasn't even meant to be about Hannibal. It just kind of reverse engineered that way, which I think is just, it's cool, kind of cool. And I think it kind of shows that because one of the biggest criticisms to the film series, and guys, I know we're talking about the film series a lot, but we'll get to the series in a minute, it's just that the Will Graham character disappears. In the film series, after Red Dragon, he's gone. You don't hear about him again in Silence of the Lambs. You don't hear about him again in the Hannibal movie as well. And it's like, the guy who caught Hannibal, there's nothing to do with Hannibal in other movies, and people were very, even in the books as well. He just abandons the Will Graham character. So again, Brian Fuller not being an author and deciding that no, Will Graham, to me, he kind of is the main character. I would argue that he kind of is the main character in the Hannibal series.
In the TV series, I would say yes. I would say Hannibal is more of a plot tool.
Yeah.
It's like a driving narrative, whereas you're following Will Graham. Everybody who knows anything about this story knows that he's going to catch Hannibal at some point. So you're watching to see those dots get connected until he eventually captures Hannibal. So he is the protagonist. You are following him. You're not following Hannibal, watching him evade him all the time, and then he's going to get away at some point. He's going to get caught.
Couldn't agree more. And again, I just love Brian Fuller's take on this. And again, guys, you know what? Let me get this out of the way. I know I shouldn't do this, so I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to give you my rating for this series because, guys...
Oh, shit, you're pulling a cat face?
I am, man, because I'm a gush over the series. I was blown away by the series. And as you listen to me, break it down why, you will understand this series is a high full class. It's almost in my Hall of Fame. The only reason it isn't is very understandable, is because it's clearly unfinished. The story is I wouldn't even say it ends on a cliffhanger. I would say this: if it doesn't continue where it ended, I'm still happy, to be honest with you, because I got a lot from this series. And to be honest with you, this story is more about psychology to me than a narrative. It is so much about psychology that I'm going to get into that by the end of the third season, even by the end of the second series, my brain was tired. I'm like, Hannibal is one of the most evilest, manipulative demons I've ever seen. And guys, the series is a fucking masterpiece on every level. I love it to death, and I just want to get that out of the way because I'm going to gush all over the series. I have problems with it. I have problems with the series, like I do with every series, but for the most part, the series brings a lot to the table, and I actually think this is one of the best adaptations from the original source material I've ever seen.
No, it definitely is the best. I mean, for one, because it has 3 seasons to work out a structured narrative, whereas you have movies, even like you're talking about the books, like just stuff like Will Graham, poof, gone. It's a jumbled mess. Whereas with the TV series, it's one continuous storyline that connects, with a couple other plots and stuff, but it's fleshed out very well. I'm a little bit more critical. I think everybody knows that. I'm going to give it a low first class. I really like it. I would like TV to be more like this, but I had a little bit of problems with the way that the series ended, which ended on the Red Dragon story arc. So as it was coming towards the end, I was kind of losing focus because I didn't find it that interesting. And then the ending was kind of like, oh, okay, I guess. Yeah. Which here, spoiler alert, just jump ahead like 20 seconds. You don't want spoilers. They eventually fight the Red Dragon together, and they all fall over a cliff. So it's like that's the end of the series. So. Can you come back from that? Sure. Could that explain why Will Graham just poof disappears? Yeah, of course. Actually, that would make a lot of sense. But as an ending for a story, oh man, I mean, especially when I know there's more to it from the source material way beyond that, it kind of irks me a little bit. Of course. Even though I love the series and everything, the acting, I love the take on it.
Dude, the whole third season is a problem. And that's, if you don't have criticism, the whole third season is a problem. And the whole third season is, I think, the reason why the show got cancelled. And I'm not saying the first season is bad. It's just the direction completely shifts. The first 2 seasons are very, very similar, very, very focused on one particular narrative. And to be honest with you, the reason why the first season diverts so much is just because the story goes in a direction it has to go, which we'll get to. But before we get into all that stuff, guys, again, I want to stress this. We haven't read the books. I haven't read them tick for tack, but I went over them in an overview way, so I know what happens in the books. You know what's funny? As the books are adapted into movies and into the series, it just got better and better because people think the books fell off. Then they think the movies were better, but they fell off. And they think the series is amazing, but then, as you just kind of mentioned, it fell off because it didn't end and it ended in a weird way. The books...
The books also end in a weird way.
Yeah, they did. The people are very... I think out of all of them, people are very critical on the way the Hannibal story ends with the books. Because to be honest with you, the Hannibal story isn't over. And I'm not sorry if it's a spoiler. The Hannibal story, he's not dead. In the books, he just ends. He ends with a partner. He ends with a romantic partner. I'm not going to say who it is or whatever. And that's it. That's all you know.
But it's very odd how it happens. Like, people have trouble adhering to that being why this person becomes his lover and partner. And then they just run off into the sunset.
And the movies don't bother end. The movies are just the worst. To be honest with you, the last Hannibal movie, it doesn't really, Hannibal runs away on an airplane, that's it. And that's because they didn't agree with the book. Long story short, no one really agreed with what the author wrote. So in the movies they changed it, and in the series, Bryan Fuller changed it. And let's just jump right into the series properly now. So the series started in 2013. Again, Bryan Fuller... With this 3-season series, if you haven't watched the Hannibal series, it's an amalgamation of all the books, all the movies in a very different take. To me...
Well, no, not all of them, because Jodie Foster's character, what was her name? Clarice isn't in any of the series.
They take elements from all of them. That's why
They do, but the actual character isn't in there.
No, you're right. They specifically omit the key villain in Silence of the Lambs and the Clarice characters. You're right. They still inject certain elements of Silence of the Lambs we'll get into. So, but I'm glad that Bryan Fuller says we'll hopefully get to that in maybe the 4th season that we'll talk about later. So, talking about the first couple of seasons. Now, again, coming into the series, after watching the movies, I was excited. I wasn't sure what to expect, but the first thing, when I saw Will Graham, I thought, you know what, again, I feel vindicated. This is the better way to tell the story, because this character, they could flesh out a lot with this. And when the series starts, the first season in particular, it has an overarching theme, which starts off with the very first episode with this murder of there's this murderer who kills these young girls, and it's the first 3 episodes, not the first episode, because it starts off episodic like the first 2, and then the main episode that kind of starts off the first arc is where there's this killer who's killing these young girls, and he has a daughter, and I don't want to spoil too much, just in case. This is kind of spoilery, but I don't want to spoil everything. But basically, Will Graham ends up killing this mass murderer with Hannibal's help, and this just kicks off a whole 2 sagas of psychoanalysis of Will Graham once he commits this murder, because in this universe, again, I think I should stress this as well, to me this is a parallel universe. This isn't the Will Graham from the movie at all. Red Dragon, the movie, it starts kind of at the end of Hannibal's career, of when he's just about to be caught, and this will start way before. So I guess, this is the point where Will Graham and Hannibal are collaborators. They're using Hannibal Lecter as a collaborator to kind of help Will and to kind of help with the cases. Hannibal, again, he might be the name of the series, but he's a side character. Will Graham is front and center, and when Will Graham murders this girl's father, who's a murderer, it shakes him, because I think this is his first actual kill, and this is the beginning of Hannibal coming to the surface, because Hannibal starts to have this infatuation with Will Graham, and that's the tale this series goes on, this relationship between Hannibal Lecter and Will Graham, and the murders that Hannibal does all through the series. And it's a very strange narrative, because in a way it's episodic, because Hannibal does murder regularly, but it's mixed in with these murders that are all going on by different people as well. And Hannibal is also manipulating everybody, Will Graham, the police department. There's so much going on, which is why I don't really want to dissect every single episode. But this series on the whole, to me, it's got to do with the manipulation of this mad cannibal psychiatrist and his fascination with this unbalanced genius detective. And it is fucking incredible. I find this series completely incredible, and I'm gonna let you talk about this, because I can go on for ages about how fascinating I think the show is.
First of all, let's get something straight. Like, the most common genre of movies, well, maybe not movies, but definitely television, crime drama. And it's usually just the cops, like like Law and Order or whatever. Sometimes, like, you get a quote-unquote defective detective, one of my favorite sayings from actually one of my favorite TV shows of all time, Monk, but that's a different thing. We'll talk about that some other time. So you have this flawed detective, right? And that's, at this point in TV history, not that unique. Even if you make him super, like, this character is super empathic, meaning he feels, that's how he solves crimes, is he feels the view, the motivations, etc. of the killer, and that's how he solves the crime. He basically reverse engineers through being able to relate to what their mindset was. Just that alone, and the way that they visually show him going through that and working through his process is actually very fascinating, even just to watch.
He is the killer.
He literally becomes the killer. And one of the things I actually loved about it, it's kind of cheesy, but at the end of whenever he would do these on the spot analysis of the crime scene and stuff, he'd be like, "This is my masterpiece," or like, this is my killing, this is my art. You know what I mean? Like, depending on what the mindset of the killer was.
It looks corny when he says it, but all he's doing is just visualizing the psychosis of these killers, and I don't think it's corny.
I just think it sounds corny for me to say it, but when I watch it, I love it.
It looks corny. It kind of looks corny too. I won't lie, it does. But it's genuine, and he's only echoing what these people are thinking. He's a genius.
Yeah. So I mean, just that alone is a fascinating sort of thing to experience as a viewer. But then there's this whole, like, you either like psychologically driven stuff or you don't, and if you don't, let's stay away from this. But if you do, like, you like things, for example, like Homunculus or Itchy the Killer, and you like the psychological part of it, you're going to really like this, because there is this teasing / nurturing / programming / just a whole mess of like Hannibal and Will Graham growing and interacting with each other psychologically throughout the entire story, and especially early on, it's just really different. It's really neat to watch. You know what I mean? It's not like a lot of other shows where it's just the guy has a gift and he's kind of weird, but he solves it at the end of the day. I mean, like I think there were times where Will Graham didn't even solve cases, right? Like he got stuck.
No.
Yeah, so it's like in that sense too, it's believable. It's like he just so he completely fall apart. Like that's how you can tell like his empathy isn't a gift. It's just something he has. It's like, sometimes it's a curse. You know, like he would break down if he couldn't figure out how the murder happened, and it was just neat.
They say he's on the spectrum in the show, but as the series goes on, I feel like Hannibal takes him to a place mentally that cures him his aspects and also destroys his mind in the most guys. I don't want to sound like no toffee nose guy that's just kissing up to the show. I haven't seen a show that is multi-layered in the way where it's episodic, where it's still trying to show these murders. Hannibal isn't the only murderer in the show, which is why it's very unique. Hannibal is like the guy behind the curtain as well, but also he's feeding. Hannibal does his thing. There's other murders going on that he isn't even a part of. But what he'll do is he'll come in. He'll even play a part in other murders just because either he wants to surpass them or he just like what they're doing. To him, murder is an art form. It's not only an art form, but it's his food. And then he's a psychiatrist on the other hand, and he likes fucking with people. And as you get further in the series, the one thing you really understand about Hannibal, and when I say it now, especially if you haven't watched the series, it's going to make him sound like a very simple psychopath or just a madman. But as he creates more chaos and as he becomes more destructive and destroying people's lives, and when it gets to the point where people actually find out who he is, which I don't want to jump too ahead, but I just want to say this one thing. The one thing it always comes down to is he always says, I just want to see what would happen.
He does say that a lot, yeah.
And the things he's doing to people that he just wants to see, I mean, he's destroying people's lives. He's destroying their minds just because. He's just curious. It's pure curiosity. It's not just sadism. He actually just wants to see what you'll do. He will set up murders. He will set up. The first season is curiosity. He does these things because of art. He likes what other people are doing. He wants to participate. He finds Will Graham interesting. The end of the first season, you really think you caught him, or things look like you're catching him, or he's digging himself into a corner. By the end of the first season, the thing they want to clarify first, not only is he an artist, not only is he a great psychologist, Hannibal himself is a genius. He's a different genius. He's a fucking mastermind. Because by the end of the first season, which, guys, I'm going to spoil, so I'm sorry, I'm going to spoil. At the end of the first season, he fucking sets Will up in the most perfect way. He sets Will up into everything you've been watching in this series leads to Will. That he is the mastermind of all these killings. And Will's when the first season ends, Will is in the madhouse, and you just can't believe that it is written in a way so clearly that anyone would believe Will Graham is the mad psychotic killer, and you can't blame him because Jack, the lead detective who's played by Lawrence Fishburne, he uses Will, and this is another thing I love. Even the good guys are using these things for the greater good. Like Jack knows that Will Graham is very unstable. He knows that it's hurting him to empathize, to recreate all these murders. Lawrence Fishburne is playing a really good part here, and I understand you might not even like him, to be honest with you, but in the grand scheme of things, he's kind of sacrificing Will because he is getting results.
Well, the thing is, like they even mentioned this in the show, Will Graham is surrounded by psychopaths. Like everybody's using him. They might pretend to have concern for him and stuff, but in the end, they use him to their own means. And in the process, you know, his ego, his self, is getting mentally destroyed, and it shows throughout the series. And then that's why, as the first season concludes, and you see that Hannibal's actually been leaving breadcrumbs leading up to Will Graham, it makes sense because everybody that matters is using him, and they know they're destroying him while they're doing it.
It's beautiful. When I was watching it, I was like, it's like I could see it coming, but I was wondering at a certain point when how could he tie this up so perfectly? And this thing with Will killing this girl's father, it has hurt him so badly. And him and fucking Hannibal are like father figures. It's very disturbing. They're father figures to this little girl that they killed their father. And in the same time with their father figures, Hannibal is playing this double fucking agent where he's even like manipulating the girl into killing on the side and trusting him to lie to everybody. And at the same time, he's playing... Guys, this is some mastermind psychology madness. Guys, I was completely floored. And before I keep on gushing, I do want to say, look, let's talk about some of the other characters. So, apart from Will Graham, Hannibal, and Jack, who's, again, Lawrence Fishburne, there's some other characters. It's a kind of a small cast. You see some other people, but I want to talk about Alana. Alana is like another psychologist who's there to kind of aid the police as well. In the first season, to me, she plays a kind of a smaller part. By the end of the first season, she becomes an unwilling pawn to Hannibal in one of the worst ways, which she's no idea of. And she, as an actress, I think she's good. Hey, if I didn't mention this, the acting's superb. Everyone delivers on a superb level. Great casting. To another actress that completely blew me away that I didn't even know was in the show, Gillian Anderson playing Hannibal psychiatrist.
Oh yeah, that was like a punch in the gut just seeing that out of nowhere.
You know, the thing I love about this show, even though it's this horror thriller psychologist show, Hannibal's very honest. I mean, when Hannibal's in his psychiatrist lesson therapy sessions with Gillian Anderson, he's very honest with her. He's manipulating her as he's manipulating everybody. He's even manipulating his own therapist in a very bad way as well. The conversation they have in the show, and I have to say, putting all the murder and all that fun stuff aside, I love the show for the conversations. They are having some really intellectual, fun, think piece conversations that as an adult, I really appreciated. The writing is fucking stellar. And every single person in this show, whoever they are, whether they're reporters or people helping with the murders, the crime scenes, I just think everyone's got something really intelligent to say. And I think all the characters, small or big, are really well fleshed out. The writing's really superb, even with the smaller characters.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the one of the things that puts it on the first class for me is the acting all around. Like, I touched on this on other recordings too, like Samurai Jack, for example. It's like, even when you have it to a level where it's even the bit parts or somebody has like one line, etc., you know, and it's all good, that's a higher level that everybody should be aspiring to when it comes to a television show, well, movie too, you know, but I mean, we're talking about television shows specifically right now.
Catface, all that I said, all that stuff I'm gushing about. Then there's an icing on the cake. The one thing we haven't mentioned, which honestly, this is the one thing I heard about the show, even before the story, the characters, man. You know what this show made me more than anything else? Against my own will, Catface.
To try to murder people and get away with it?
It's on that line, it made me goddamn hungry. Because...
Are you serious?
This guy, let me tell you, this show looks... Cinematography and the shots, they're one of the most beautiful looking show I've ever seen. When Mads Mikkelsen is creating these dishes, and let me tell you something, he is a master chef. You see him chopping these recipes.
I feel like the most disgusting shit too is like, this is a pancreas of an antelope, and it's been aged for like 2 years. It's like he makes it into like a rose or something, and it looks delicious. It does. You
know, the funny thing is, he doesn't do these lavish dinner shows a lot. There's a few times that he makes these big dinner parties, but most of the time it's these small, like 3 or 4 people coming over to his grand table. And he is such a good host. He's such a great host. He puts on a great show, and the food looks delicious. And you know, it's one of the most comedic points of the show is watching the people eat. They will come to eat. You'll see them eating the food, and he's enjoying watching them eat. And he's enjoying watching them eat human beings. And he always has this double talk, like, you know, he says stuff like the bait was really hard to catch. I had to smother them in oil. Or I had to drown them. He makes all these double talk. Well, you know he's saying. He's just talking about how he murdered them and they're licking their fingers. And it's like, this is fucking insane. But it looks so delicious. I was like, you making me want to be into Hannibal. And then I wonder, can he make kidney taste like chicken? I was actually wondering, can he spice up these ribs to taste better than pork? Because the way, because I mean, it's insane. I'm like, wow, man, Hannibal really makes these human beings look delicious. And again, putting that aside, Hannibal has a dress sense that's pretty awesome. You know, there's actually a website about how Hannibal dresses, because he dresses really classy.
He does, in fact. Like, I was watching it, I was like, oh, if I only had more money, I would love to dress like that.
His house, this show looked great. Even the murders, even when they create these lavish murder scenes, I mean, most of the time they're hooking people up on all these crazy instruments. And I mean, I could talk about some of my favorite deaths. I mean, kind of a spoiler, Hannibal kills one of the police detectives in one of the more artistic ways. He slices...
Oh, you mean when she, vivisects them?
Yeah. He slices this woman into glass panels across a room like a fucking art exhibit. This is insane. I mean, it's this is another thing that makes the show shine. So anyway, I'm gushing a lot about the presentation, all that other stuff, but I want to tackle the season by season. So by season 1, we covered all that. Will Graham is framed. He manipulated everyone to think he killed this girl, and he was a mastermind, but all these killings as well. And and Will Graham sounded like a madman because he finally figured out that it's you, Hannibal. You're the demon. And even when he looks at Hannibal now, he sees this horned devil, which again, the way they use the set design to even make it's fucking it looks scary as fuck. And by that time, Will's mind is broken. Season 2 just took this show to a whole fucking other universe because everyone believes Hannibal. And Hannibal, by this time, when Will's basically incarcerated in the madhouse, Hannibal just slides into Will's place. Like, he's the guy that the police are using now, and he's enjoying it. But you know what? He still misses Will. It's not enough that he's, used Will, he's blackmailed him, everyone believes him, he's fucking Will's love interest now, everyone loves Hannibal.
I do have a question to interrupt you real fast,
sure.
But do you feel that Matt Mikkelsen's portrayal of Hannibal in the television series is that of a sociopath? Like, do you think part of the reason why he's so fascinated and attracted to Will is because Will's his antithesis, where he feels everything and he himself cannot feel most of the range of emotions a normal person can as a sociopath?
At this point in season 2, I didn't think so. I felt like throughout the series, Hannibal witnesses other murderers and he appreciates a lot of what they do. He thinks they've got a very interesting perspective, which is why he participates and ends up killing them most of the time. He participates in what they're doing and kind of surpasses them. To me, he's kind of like someone who likes artists and then wants to surpass their own art. He does that a lot. He sees what they're doing, helps them out, then kills them, and then does something even better than them. But Will has a talent he's never seen before. He can kind of obviously embody all of those people, and he's got a perspective. So I think the curiosity, I wouldn't say antithesis, it comes to that near the end of season 2 and 3. I agree with you there. But in the first 2, I think he sees him as a very special being with a very special ability that he doesn't have.
That he could never emulate himself?
I think there is a jealousy there later. In the beginning, I think he sees him more as a pet, as this really cute pet he can manipulate and he wants to keep. Then later, it festers into something a lot more, which is what you're agreeing to. So to answer your question, I think he gets there ultimately, but I think it builds into more of a curiosity than to a pet that he wants to kind of control, and then a pet that he really starts to like and adore, and then a weird kind of equal into someone that's not quite like him, but someone he wants to preserve. Season 2, like I said, he wants to take his place, and I'll get to, because I want to address something else you said. He wants to take his place, but he still wants Will in his life. So even though he framed Will and all that, he's like, you know what? I like Will too much, and I miss Will. And this is the part where I thought to myself, this show is fucking insane. It's like, it's not enough he took his life and he incarcerated me. He's like, nah, life. Hannibal makes a decision through the series, which really, for me, took the series up to another level. Hannibal decides that, you know what? Life is too boring without Will. And then halfway through season 2, he decides to fucking set him free. So after he went through all that fucking trouble into incarcerating him, he somehow formulates a plan to make it in a way where he exonerates Will without incriminating himself.
It's not like some cockamamie either. It's actually believable.
Yes, that's the thing. I was like, I can't believe he found a way to completely exonerate this guy, completely framed, but still not incriminate himself, and everyone is still free. It's honestly, it's Divine is fucking phenomenal, and it leads all the way up to the end of season 2. And the only parts of the show, and guy, I'm loving this all the way up to season 2, and there's 2 twists in the show that I was like, really crazy twists. I was like, you got a fucking, this is unbelievable. And guys, I do apologize. I'm gushing over the show like I did on JoJo's Adventure. Catface, I don't know if I'm bothering you with this too much.
No, dude, I want you to say what your feelings are always. You know, I want that genuine feeling to our recordings.
The 2 twists that he did in the show, which blew my mind. Jack, through the show, the lead detective, the one who even is leading Will, he had like this cadet or this person that was in training in the FBI that he kind of lost to the killer, which ended up being Hannibal. I forgot they gave Hannibal a name.
It was some girl, but it was not Jodie Foster's character. It was somebody else.
Exactly. There was some girl that has been gone for years that Jack lost because he lost him to the killer, which he didn't know was Hannibal at the time. And all through the show, it kind of haunted Jack. And then first twist is that Hannibal's been keeping her this whole time. He brings her out, and this is the first time we get to see one of Hannibal's specialty skills, which is programming. Now, when they revealed this in the show that he has a skill for programming, I actually thought this was a bit overkill, because I actually thought Hannibal was a menace before this. I thought he was like a genius. I thought he was a master manipulator. I thought he was a great villain on his own. But once they put the programming in, I just thought he was a little bit overpowered. I thought, wow, it was believable. Don't get me wrong. It was very believable because, again, Hannibal is a character who likes to learn. They make this clear. He likes to learn. He's a very good medical student. It's probably a very good surgeon. He's probably proven that with all his murders and his fucking art decals of human flesh. But what he did to this girl and what he used this girl to do, the reason he kept this girl alive was to fuck with this guy, was to fuck with Jack.
It's because he hates Jack. That's why he kept her alive, out of spite.
And bringing her back, teasing him all through the show. And the thing about Hannibal is he does these things. He doesn't even do these things with a smile, but you know what he's thinking because he goes into therapy as well. And he can't tell you as an audience exactly what he's thinking, but it's very clear his motivations. He's not really hiding it either. And as the series goes on, here's the thing with the end of season 2. By the end of season 2, Hannibal, he's had his fun. He's fucked with Will. He's fucked with Jack. He's fucked with everybody. And to be honest with you, he kind of just gives in. He's like, you know what? I'm done. I've ran this course. He probably, to be honest with you, he ran out his cards. He pulled all of his games, all of his psychology out to its most believable extent. For them to continue this throughout the show, it probably would have stretched its believability to the audience. So for me as a fan, I thought, hey, I like the fact this is all coming to an end. By the end of season 2, he's kind of caught. He's kind of, he's on the run. Sorry, end of season 2, he leaves and it's a mass bloodbath. I'm not sure how I felt about the end of season 2 because he basically nearly murders everybody. By the end of season 2, Will's mind, but at this point, Will's been kind of programmed by Hannibal by this time because Will's gone into therapy with Hannibal again, even though he knows he's the bad guy, which is another level of insanity I don't even want to get into right now.
Well, it's not like he had a choice. This is while he was incarcerated. He was forced to do it, you know what I mean?
Even after Hannibal exonerated him, he went into free therapy with Hannibal, and Hannibal started giving him psychedelic drugs, programming him, making him even more insane. And, you know, by the end, well, actually, sorry, that happened before. I'm confused. Sorry, that happened before. You're right. That happened before. Afterwards,
he still, because he suspected Hannibal at that point, he would continue to go, yeah.
Sorry, I confused the first season with the second season. No, by the second season, Will tried to play to like, he let Hannibal know, I know it's you, and he tried to basically become an accomplice to Hannibal, and like, you know, he tried to like, Hannibal kind of really adores me, he's really infatuated with me, so what I'm going to do is, I'm going to try to become his, and this is the quote online, they call them murder husbands. This is a big quote online, they call Hannibal and Will Gray murder husbands at this point. And the thing is, as an audience, you're not exactly sure if Will has fallen off into the dark side, if Will has become. And to be honest with you, he kind of half and half. He kind of is. And I think the reason is, I think Hannibal has just really fucked his mind too much, and he can't really. He already had this trait of being able to identify with the killer, but it went too far. Hannibal just took him way past the deep end, and I think by this time Will Graham's personality to become a little bit dissociative, and he can't be the person he was anymore. By season 2, he's kind of, I wouldn't call him a killer per se, but he's lost morality. He's been
tainted. He's been tainted for sure.
And he doesn't see black and white as much anymore. And to be honest with you, he's kind of infatuated with Hannibal to a point.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. To me, the relationship at this point kind of culminates to like, it's lonely at the top. So for Hannibal, he doesn't have any friends. He pretends to have friends, and even Will Graham, he was pretending to be friends with. But I think he genuinely wants to be friends with Will. I don't remember if this. I think it happened in the second season, but it might have been a different season where another murderer wanted to be Hannibal's friend, and he's like, "No, I don't want to be your friend."
That was the end of season 2.
Yeah, okay. So in season 2, that happened even. Yeah. And then, like, by the end of it, it does seem like they want to be friends with each other, like because nobody else really understands them. To be frank, they don't. Yeah. So even if it's a little bit. Somebody understanding like who Hannibal really is, to him it's like that is a bridge to friendship. To me, that's how I viewed like how their relationship was changing. And I actually thought, you know what, I think they made Will Graham go evil, because that'd be really interesting for one, but just like the progression, everything that's happened to him and the way their relationship's changing, you said murder husband. I thought that's what really happened. It's like, and it was believable too. Like I actually wasn't sure. I love that I couldn't tell what was going on.
I think the reason why Will couldn't cross that line completely is just because the thing about Hannibal is he's a cannibal and he does want to eat you. And here's the thing, Will knows that Hannibal does want to taste him. He does want to kill him, but he doesn't, because Hannibal killing is kind of a plateau for him, but Will is such a special creature that Hannibal just can't, because there's no one else like Will on this earth.
It's like killing a unicorn, the last unicorn.
That's why Hannibal can't kill him. And the end of season 2, Hannibal is very disappointed with Will because Hannibal wanted to run away with Will. This is some romantic twisted shit that they were all meant to run off together. And Hannibal, second twist, Hannibal was keeping a very special surprise for Will. But because Will disappointed Hannibal, he decides to flaunt it in his face and punish him. And that surprise is that the thing that Hannibal framed Will for in season 1 was the murder of this girl, which again, another trick, because Hannibal's been keeping her alive all this time. He didn't kill her, which is the second twist. Like, wow, Hannibal doesn't kill everybody. And again, they do this a lot of flashbacks in season 3. He never killed, I forgot her name, it's Angelica, I can't remember her name. I'll find it in a minute.
It's not that important, I think. But, like,
they were all meant to run off together and live happly ever after, but because...
Yeah, they were meant to be like a pair of fathers and the daughter, and they're supposed to go around killing people.
Yeah, and because this is the funny thing. The thing that tips Hannibal off at the end is Hannibal has got this fucking Wolverine sense of smell.
Yeah, that's funny, but I mean, like, a large part of taste is smell. So, like, if you're that into culinary and you're that good at it, it does make sense that he could smell something like that. You know, in his own home of all places.
He actually smelled that Will had that disease. Will had this disease going on that, and again, Hannibal let go undiagnosed because, again, he wanted to see what would happen. You know what I'm talking about? They found out that Will had this, Will was having these headaches in season, I think it was season 1. It was, season 1. He was having all these crazy headaches, and then they found out, like, him and the neurologist found out, oh yeah, Will's got the disease, and then Hannibal was like, this disease Will has is very rare. Wouldn't it be interesting for the benefit of science to let it go by? So it was insane. I don't mean to backtrack, but again, anyway, by the end of season 2, Hannibal's very disappointed that Will wasn't good, that kind of was setting him up. So Hannibal actually kills the girl in front of him that Will thought was dead from season 1. And Will was traumatized from thinking that she was dead, that Hannibal killed her anyway. But then Hannibal kills her in front of him, which sends him into another layer of psychosis. And by this time, and then on top of that, Hannibal also stabs him, like in the Red Dragon movie, which is again very iconic, and leaves him for dead. He's at this point, by the way, he's stabbed Lawrence Fishburne's character to death. They're down on the floor. Will's down on the floor. He's killed the girl on the floor.
He doesn't die, but he was about to die.
Well, that was a cliffhanger. You don't know who's dead.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, and then he pushes Alana out the window. You think she's gonna die because she fucking broke her back.
Everyone's basically dying, and this is where season 3. This is where the season fell off, because this is the season that kind of jumped to the Hannibal book, the very most recent Hannibal book, where Hannibal is in France. He's starting a new life. He's gotten away out of America, and he's on the, I wouldn't even say he's on the run with his therapist, because he's kind of having Gillian Anderson at hostage, kind of against her will. She's another one he's manipulating, and she can't really get away from him. Now, this is the season where I know a lot of people fell off, and they were kind of like, what's going on? Because for the first episode, it was just Hannibal in France, and it didn't show anything of what happened to the other characters at the end of that finale. So people were like, what the fuck is going on? Is everyone dead? Are we just going to watch Hannibal in France now? And they actually wondered if this was a season they were going to bring in Jodie Foster, Silence of the Lambs. But instead, it turns into this kind of world chase. For the first half is Hannibal in France, and they find out Will's alive and Jack's alive, and they go to France to catch Hannibal. And that part of the season was kind of to me, because you're just watching Hannibal in France. And again, people didn't like the Hannibal movie for the same reason. Hannibal's in France, and he's trying to become is it a musician or a scholar or something, and he kills all these people. And it's
a university professor, I think.
Yeah.
No, a museum curator. That's what it was.
How did you feel about the season? Because a lot of people, this is the part, same with the Hannibal movie, with Anthony Hopkins, they didn't like that France thing. And with the series, they fell off with this as well, because they're completely out of the US now, in a whole new place. It looked gorgeous, fantastic, but nobody liked this France part.
The movie definitely didn't care for it. I can't remember it very much. They didn't get Jodie Foster back, which is not good. The TV series, I have mixed feelings about. Like, there's this thing where Will Graham kind of starts to hunt Hannibal Lecter, and he's learning more about him, and you learn more about Hannibal Lecter in that manner, and you can see that there's a relationship between the two of them, and it's maybe changed, maybe not. It's kind of up to the viewer, I think, to decide how the relationship actually changed and why, what motivates Will Graham to continue searching for Hannibal Lecter across seas, out of country and everything. So that aspect of the story I enjoyed. The other stuff that was going on, like when you're watching Hannibal in France, though, like you're saying, not too interesting to me. Was it France or was it Italy?
I think it was both. I think because they went. I think he traveled to both, actually. Okay.
But either way, it's like, it was so. Even the Red Dragon story arc, when he came back to America, I was like, you know what I mean?
I'm going to get to that right now, actually. I just wanted to cover that first half, because the difference was Hannibal killed the girl, Abigail. Her name is Abigail. Hannibal killed Abigail in front of Will this time. So this time he actually saw it, even though he thought she did the first time. Now it's like, is he going for revenge properly this time? Does he just, I know he just wants to catch Hannibal. One way or another, he wants to imprison Hannibal. Whether he's in love with him, I don't know. But by the end, what happens at the very end is that Hannibal just, oh, I actually forgot. Sorry, this whole other subplot, which I don't think two of us are too fussed about. They bring up that other big part of Hannibal, which is that rich family. I forgot what they're called.
Oh, the Vergers.
Yeah, the Vergers, this crazy Verger son who's abusing his sister, and he's going out for revenge against Hannibal, and he brings him back to the US, and that's when he kind of gives up. They bring him back, and it ties to the Hannibal film as well. He makes him cut off his face in season 2. That whole merger thing was fine, and I thought it was a bit of fun. I thought that was just silly fun. I think their family's crazy.
I think the Verger story arc is more fitting for the show than when Hannibal was
in France,
isolated from everybody across the pond. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what brings him back into the US. The family capture him and they bring him back because they want revenge, and then Will kind of saves him. And it's I know I'm skimming over a lot of things, like Alana again, like her having sex with Hannibal all that time and her really hating him, and they have this very hate relationship. Like, for some reason, Hannibal really wants to kill Alana. I'm not sure why. He's like, your life's on borrowed time. I mean,
it's probably because it's probably like very. I mean, I think it's deeper with Jack, but with Alana, he knows that she used will and fucked him up. So it's like it's kind of like a thing like I'm allowed to do that. You know what I mean?
I think you're right. I think he does distaste her because they had and he really did a number on her though. But so kind of wrapping the story up, because I do have a lot more other things to say. Get into the second end with the Red Dragon stuff. When it covers the movie Red Dragon, I thought it did a really good job. Now, because they had to fast forward a little bit, they do when they catch Hannibal finally, because he kind of gives up, which I think is fine. I actually like the fact he just kind of gave in. I thought that was perfectly fine. I actually think that was more satisfying than them catching him.
Accidentally getting captured.
Yeah, I thought that was, and then at the end of the day, Will Graham kind of says, you did that on purpose because you wanted me to know where you always are. And it really does cement their twisted, I'm going to call it twisted romance. That's what I'm going to call it right now. It's a very twisted romance. Maybe it might be a platonic romance, but it's a very twisted romance. And by that time, they jumped to the Red Dragon series. The Red Dragon stuff is fine. I thought it was adequate. It's as good as the movie, in my mind. The guy who plays the Red Dragon obviously isn't as good as Voldemort. I forgot his name, but I'm just going to call him Voldemort because he's the same. He's the same actor.
Yeah.
He's the same actor. So I'm going to Voldemort. It's good enough. It's really good. They did the Red Dragon saga really well. Now, getting to the end, and this is where Hannibal was cancelled. By this time, Hannibal had really low ratings, but it's a very expensive show. Hannibal was a very expensive show, which I think places the reason why I don't think the ratings justified the cost. And I think that's the reason, because it still had high ratings. I checked, it had very high ratings, but the viewership dropped a lot. I think it dropped to it went from like a full 4 quarters to like a 2, like a half the viewership it lost. And I don't blame them because it died down. So, it's a very expensive show. Now, where it ended with Hannibal and Will, but honestly, I thought it was very goofy. That last 2 episodes, I thought they were very goofy. And I think that last scene, especially where they fall off a cliff together, they could just write it off as a figment of Will's imagination, to be honest. That could just be, because that whole thing, to get this in detail, let me just go into a little bit of detail. Because they want to capture a dragon, Will come up with a great idea they need to use Hannibal as bait, so they let him go free. So they said they're going to stage Hannibal breaking free so the Red Dragon can come and catch him. But here's the thing, when they stage this Hannibal getting free, he actually does escape, because he actually kills police officers. So I'm like, are you meant to stage Hannibal killing police? Because in that little heist that the Red Dragon shot them while they were going, and then Hannibal killed them, they killed people. So that was a failure of a fake breakout. I thought that was really fucking dumb, because by the end, it's Will Graham and Hannibal and the guy, and I'm like, where are the police? I mean, isn't this exactly what you wanted? The police wanted this exactly to happen, but for some reason, they're nowhere to be seen. So somehow, that whole thing was just kind of silly. The fight with the Red Dragon with them 3 was artistic. They both sliced into pieces. It was kind of funny. Now, them falling off a cliff, I thought that was just some artistic dribble. I think when they come back with season 4, which I do think they will, I think that's just going to be like a dream. That last part, you could say that Will just collapsed, and him thinking him and Hannibal fell off a cliff, that was a dream. Because I don't think there's no way they're going to say that they survived the fall. That's ridiculous. They're probably going to say that they both fell unconscious, or Will fell unconscious and Hannibal got away. So the ending's just silly to me. But again, I just think it's a silly ending that they could redo when the series comes back in season 4.
Okay, so here's where I have to start asking you some questions, because it's been a while and I'm not as much of an investigator as you are, but my understanding was at some point while they were filming, they expected to get the rights to 3 or 4 more seasons, more source material, but the author clamped down and said, no, that's all you get, and they was very adamant about it, and they were not able to negotiate, and that's why season 3 is the way it is.
I don't believe so. I believe they were told early on. I don't know about the author's input. All I know is they were told way before that. I think they were told halfway through the end of season 3 that they weren't getting another season. So they decided to cram in that Red Dragon, because Red Dragon could have been a whole season, to be honest.
Yeah, it definitely should have been a whole season, I think.
But they crammed it into 5 episodes. So to me, it's like they didn't have enough room for the Silence of the Lambs idea, so they decided just to end it on that and leave it in some ambiguous way that they could come back to again, which I think they gave it a very lazy, silly ending that they could kind of, I want to call it a retcon, but they could just redo that and just say that that last fight they had with Red Dragon left them unconscious or delirious, and then it never happened that way. That's what I think.
Honestly, I think that's worse than if they fell over the cliff. If they fell
Really?
over the cliff, Will Graham and the Red Dragon could just die, and that's the explanation. They were too hurt. They fell over the cliff. They died, and then that's why Hannibal got away again. To me, that makes more sense than they had hallucinations and stuff.
But Hannibal and Will were the ones that fell off the cliff, not the Red Dragon.
Well, okay, fine. Hannibal and Will. The only problem with that, though, is, like we were discussing very early on in the recording, Will is the protagonist.
Yeah.
So that means you have to dump your protagonist for Clarice
They won't
at
do
that point.
I guarantee they won't do that. It's just he's been on too long. He's too well established. They're going to put them all together. And I think they should. Because in the book series, he's still alive. They never killed him off. So why would they kill him off in the series? He's such a great character. He's been in it for the whole long. And unless they're going to have some 3-season Silence of the Lambs saga, which I don't think they should, I honestly think there only needs to be one more season of Hannibal. All right, maybe 2. Maybe 2 seasons at max of Hannibal. And that's it. But
I would think so too, but I'm just saying, like, that's what I heard.
Why would you have a problem more with hallucinations rather than they were bleeding and fall off a cliff? How could they survive that?
That's my point. My point was that Will disappears like he does in the books because he died. That would be my point.
I mean, look, they could. I just think they could do that, and I would believe that. But he's such a strong character to kill, and his arc isn't ended. I mean, his wife and his kid, and there's no resolution for him in Hannibal, and Hannibal will miss him. I think they've built up that relationship too long to get rid of them, and there's no other. Clarice isn't Will. Clarice isn't half the character Will is. I'm sorry.
She's Will is at the peak of his career at the start of the series, or close to it. Clarice is Greenhorn. She's new, so that's something that, like, at this point in the story, probably not a good change. I'm just saying the hallucination thing, I think, probably more cheesy than if they fell off a cliff and he died. But what I'm saying, is that better for the overall story? No, I'm just saying these specific 2 scenarios, which one is more better to me? Falling over the cliff made more sense to me than they passed out with hallucinations. But that being said, I would want to see Will Graham back. I mean, I don't want to see that character disappear. That's why I'm watching the show. It's for him and Hannibal, Matt Mikkelsen.
I would rather see Will Graham incapacitated in a hospital bed, giving advice every once in a while to Clarice, than them writing him out altogether. I know that sounds pathetic, but honestly, they just...
No, but that would be good, because that would make sense why he doesn't really pop around and have a huge hand in the story from that point on.
Yeah. Or if he was just a consultant, just from home, not on the phone. That's folded in. That's too stupid. But he doesn't need to be gone. They don't need to kill him off. Honestly, I don't think he deserves that. That is not an unjust. I don't think that's a just anything at all. And in the book, he doesn't die at all. He's just not there. So if they want to write him out where he's not there, fine. But they should not kill him. I just think that's very unfair. And if you're going to kill him, he's got to be killed in a very masterful way. I mean, lesser people have gotten artistic killings. I mean, you got to give Hannibal that delicious meal. I mean, when they were going to cut his head open in the season 3, I was like, wow, they're going to kill Will that way. I wasn't happy. I thought that was a horrible way to go. But at the same time, I thought that was awesome. It was going like that. It was going to eat his brains, which I thought was pretty funny. Was not funny. I thought pretty ballsy for them to do that to Will, but they didn't. But I thought I was interested. They teased that could have happened to him.
Yeah, I mean, if he was gonna die, it would have to be something to that level to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Falling over the cliff, probably anticlimactic. I'm just saying, between the 2 scenarios, I just thought that made more sense is all.
I'm going to have to apologise, because I really feel like this is another podcast therapy session for me, just gushing out about the show. It wasn't very constructive for people who haven't seen the show before. I spoiled everything. And
it's like I said, look, if you're into psychologically driven stories, this is a very good tale of a manipulator and somebody who is well, they're both geniuses, but somebody who is special, but being used by everybody pretty much. And there's a whole lot of layers of psychology throughout the entire story, and you will enjoy it. It's cinematography is very well shot. The dialogue, the script is very well. Most of I would say like 80% of the storyline plots pretty good. If you don't like that, or you want to see something that you don't have to put as much thought into or pay attention to as much, or something that's more episodic, not your show.
I honestly think people listen to the show at this. Who listen to this podcast at this point were already fans of the show, and again, I hate to gush over it, but honestly, I think the show is a fucking masterpiece. I really do. I've seen so much TV. We've spoken about so many shows, and man, I'm so glad there's still a few out there that are done on this level. It's in my top 10 shows of all time. I don't think I've given my top 10 list, and this is a new entry. This is a new entry. This show does a lot of things that surpass my expectations. To be honest with you, this reminds me of how I felt when I was watching the first half of Death Note. When I was watching that dichotomy between L and Light.
Yeah, that's one. If you like Death Note, you're going to like this, or at least the first half of it. I hated the ending of Death Note.
Yeah. And I felt like, wow, this is how I felt with Death Note. I love these two characters, these two geniuses, but one has an edge. That's a different Death Note. Light had the book, and L was just a genius. And that's, to me, L is Will Graham.
That's a good analogy, actually. That's a really good one.
And he's going up against Kira. You know what I mean? So, and we're seeing it from a different perspective. So, yeah, man, I would say this is the Death Note. It's like a Death Note TV series in a way, but the ending is different. So,
I'd like to see it come back like you. It would give me hope. Maybe something like Carnival could come back too. I love that show. Don't
blame me. Carnival is a really great show. To be honest with you, Carnival, I wish they would just do it from scratch again. I think it could be really done well because I think the story is more important than the actors. I think you can get actors again, do it with HBO again, and it could be redone. And again,
you would redo the first 2 seasons instead of just jumping through time, because that was the guy's original idea, is to just go forward through time.
They could do that, but
story arcs.
They could do that, but here's the problem. Like I said I know I jumped to Carnival now. I said when we did Carnival, the pace of the first and second season are different. The second season is very fast paced. It's a better pace. The first season is slow, and I just feel it's very uneven. I think you should do the show again. But anyway, let's talk about Carnival right now, guys. I'll put a link to Carnival if you want to hear us go on about Carnival. But Hannibal can continue. Guys, I've heard nothing but this is going to happen. They said this is definitely going to happen. Brian Fuller's like, oh yeah, everyone on board has said they're going to make time for the show. I honestly just, Brian Fuller says he's already got the script for the Titans and the Lambs. They've kind of muddled the timeline so weirdly. It's a parallel universe, so again, it's already done. It would be done in a way I couldn't predict at this point. I don't know how they would introduce the Clarice character.
I have faith, though. I have faith that they would do it well, based off of the other 3 seasons.
100%. It's organic. This is completely different take, and I would love to see Clarice in here. I would love to see the story continue and conclude, because that's the one thing the Hannibal franchise, even the book, doesn't really have a solid conclusion that is satisfying, because nobody likes a conclusion in the book or the movie. So I think the series could really make this franchise full and complete, and then it would be securely in my Hall of Fame. But for now, that's all I've got to say about the Hannibal TV series, guys. Thanks for hearing me just go on and on about the series. I know I did most of the rambling here, but hopefully I wasn't too incoherent.
No, I think we were fine. I mean, when you really like something, you should talk about it, because most of the time we're really critical about shit. Like, we are more negative than positive, even when we're giving something a positive review. Like, have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, like on our last discussion for Dear White People.
Yeah, I mean, that was us kind of shitting all over it, even though we did like where it was going with the story and everything. But I just, like, there's so many problems with that show, dude. And that's how most of our recordings are, is we're mostly negative, even when we're talking about something we like.
I would say mostly critical. I won't say mostly negative. I'll say mostly critical.
Okay, yeah, critical. We're mostly critical than, praising.
Yeah, because, there's plenty of people on YouTube that just shit on that, and that's their thing. Again, I love the show, but I gave my criticisms again. I think the first season is a bit of a hodgepodge. It's not as tight as the first 2, but saying that, it's still narratively great, shot well, actors are superb, and again, there's a very, very, very cheap Blu-ray box set going for it's like $20-$30. I purchased that shit like that. Man, I just love the times now where box sets are so cheap. And again, I believe this is streaming on Netflix too. So guys, if you listen to the spoiler discussion and you didn't really care and you're debating watching the show,
watch it right now. Make time for it.
This show is one of the greatest shows I've ever seen in the last 5 or 6 years. It's a fucking marvelous show, from presentation to acting to writing to everything. I'm so looking forward to a season 4, and I don't say this very often. I'm very confident they'll be back. Like some shows, this show I don't have a doubt this show will be back in the near future. I think the show will be back within the next 5 years.
I mean, I saw that interview you shared with me about Brian Fuller talking about season 4. He seemed very, very confident. So I think
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah, I do wish it was on HBO though, because I think they were on what was it? Was it NBC?
I have no idea because I didn't watch it on cable or satellite.
I know. I just I see the network logo, and the reason why I bring up the network in particular is because this for the network in question, which again I should have looked up in a moment. That network, this was I think their most brutal in terms of visuals, in terms of the.
Oh, so it's like their Breaking Bad or their Game of Thrones.
Yeah. This was, I would say, their Game of Thrones, because Breaking Bad didn't even go to this level.
Well, Breaking Bad has Breaking Bad was on AMC, right? Or Walking Dead. There we go. Walking Dead has some really fucked up shit.
No, it was on AMC. Breaking Bad's on AMC as well. They're both on AMC.
Okay. Well, I mean, like, it is a limit pusher for sure.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, that's enough of that. We went on for about an hour. See, Catface, I told you it was going to be about an hour.
Well, I always expect it to be longer than you say.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I'm really debating if I want to edit this one, because I know I went on rambles and shit, but, we'll see. We'll see how I feel about it when I listen to it again. But anyway, guys, if you watch Hannibal and, let us know your thoughts, you agree with us, you disagree with us, have any opposing opinions, or just thoughts on things we never covered, because I'm sure we missed something, leave your comments in the comment section down below. But you know what? The last thing I do want to say, if I didn't say this before, I highly recommend you watch the movies first. I really think if you watch the movies, then you'll have a much better experience. If you watch the movies after the series, I don't think you're going to enjoy the movies half as much.
No, you definitely aren't. I actually would be just like, skip the movies. I mean, like, I do love, like, Silence of the Lambs has a special place in my heart. Like, it always will. I like that movie a lot. But comparing that movie to the TV series, there isn't really a need to watch that movie. Just watch the TV series.
There was one other negative. I want this to be complete with you, so there's one other thing I forgot to bring up. The Hannibal Rising movie shows Hannibal's origin from when he was a kid to a young adult. And the character, one of the focal characters in it was his aunt, was this Asian lady. Now, she's in the series as well. And the way they brought her in, I wasn't too happy about it, because they make her... She's the opposite of what she is in the movie. In the movie, she's against what he's doing. Very much against it. And she's there when he's doing the Hannibal Rising. She's there when he's getting revenge on the people who killed his sister, which is a big part, which they only skim about in the series, because they can't go back, because that was when he was a very young man. So in the series, they only talk about it. Now, in the series, they bring her in this, this protective Hannibal, even assassinating people for him. And I just thought, she's a cool Asian character, but that wasn't a character. There was a real difference of character, which I was like, I don't know if I like that change. That was one of the things I was kind of iffy about. I don't think that's another over-the-top thing they put for Hannibal. I don't think he needed that at all. Now he's got some assassin protect on top of that. I don't know, man. I think that was a bit over the top. I nearly forgot to mention that. I was like, I don't know about that.
It was a little wonky. I mean, only comparing that character to the one in the movies, and I would assume the books. It was, like, some of the changes were great, like the way they did Will Graham, for example. But
Perfect,
that one,
amazing.
like you said, I was watching it. I was just like, I mean, I don't understand why she kept this guy alive all this time. It was like basically she couldn't let go of Hannibal, is what it was.
That's another thing that she wouldn't do. I wouldn't say it was a pacifist. This is the thing, in the movie, she had a samurai code. She was, that was in the movie, which I like. They hinted on that. But in the series, I think they took it to a fan servicey level. They made her like a action, I don't want to say superhero. So I was like, she wasn't about this at all. And she would have just lived her life. She would have went back home and just forgot about Hannibal. But now she's protecting him? Really? Anyway. I don't know why I came with that negativity right at the end, but...
Well, probably because you forgot. We only skimmed over that season, kind of, or at least the beginning of it.
Yeah. That was part of the France arc that we just kind of skimmed over. But yeah, and Gillian Anderson was... Oh my God, I love her. Gorgeous, wicked... she has a beautiful arc for the series. Just love her. She is fantastic. I think what she does here is better than what she's done in the X-Files reboot. Because I watched a couple of episodes, like, stick to Hannibal. Don't bother going back to X-Files. Because she does a lot of things outside X-Files, which I think is a lot better. No, this stuff is a lot better she does outside X-Files than X-Files itself. She's a fantastic actress. She does so well. And sorry, I really don't want to forget to give her those accolades.
She played her part really well. I mean, like, when she sat down and was Hannibal's psychiatrist, I was like, really? But, as the sessions went on and everything, she really did seem like believable for being his psychologist or psychiatrist. I'm sorry.
And now she's Will Graham's therapist, which I think is beautiful.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's about being a therapist anymore. I think they need to like confide in each other. I think that's what it's really about, because those two are victims.
Yeah, the victims are the same perpetrator.
So anyway, guys, I know I said this podcast is over before, but now it really is, because I believe we've covered everything now. Catface, thanks for coming on as always.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, let me have you over for dinner sometime.
I know you're cooking, Catface. Human!
Yep.
You so spicy meat, son. I like the spices. You should learn from Hannibal. Actually, I bet someone's made this little, these people make these weird like fan books. I bet someone made a Hannibal recipe book. I'm going to find that. I'm going to put a link in the description, guys. If you're on YouTube, click on the annotation on the screen. If you want us to do more rambles like this, give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below, as I said before. And we're going to get the hell out of here now, guys. Thanks for listening.
All right, take care, folks.
That was a ramble for the ages.
I do think you're going to have to edit that. I'm sorry.